Om Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Satchidananda Rupaya Vishvotpatyadihetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Namaha. समस्तजन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्म विद्वरम्. Hari Om, salutations to all. Canto 4, we are seeing chapter 13 today. We saw in 12th chapter at the end that Dhruva ascends Vaikuntha stepping on the head of Lord Yama, and also the specific world meant for him, the Dhruva Nakshatra. Now what happened after that? We saw that he had actually given the kingdom to his son Utkala, and he had gone to Badrikashram in Badrinath to meditate, and that is where this whole Leela happened, where Bhagwan's Viman came and then they took him, etc. Now when Naradji saw this, he was very proud, he was very happy, and he was praising. So that's what we saw, that in this assembly of these prachetas, there's a yajna that prachetas are doing, there Naradji praises him, Dhruva. So Vidurji asks that question now. So Sutaji, remember Sutaji is speaking to Shaunakadi rishis in Naimisharanya, 60,000 of them. Then he is narrating about Shukdev Maharaj giving this knowledge to Parikshit Raja. And this Parikshit Raja is listening to this entire episode, all this which is happening. In that, the conversation is between Maitreya Rishi and Vidurji right now. And now this Vidurji is asking question about Naradji. That's the sequence. So don't forget that. So Sutaji is saying that Vidurji, he was very devoted to the Lord, and when he heard about the ascension of Dhruva to Vaikuntha, his heart was filled with a lot of devotion, and then he asked these questions further. So Vidur Uvacha Kete Prachetaso Nama Kasyapatyani Suvrata Kasyan Vavaye Prakhyataha Kutrava Satramasata. So Vidurji is asking the question about the prachetas, that who are these prachetas, whose children are they? Oh Maitreya Rishi, please tell me. And in whose line were they known to be born, and where did they have their sacrificial session? Because the yajna was being conducted by them. So he says that Naradji is a great devotee of Bhagwan, and who has perceived Bhagwan directly, who has darshan, and who has the access to Bhagwan, at any time. And he is one person who can go in all the three worlds. He is really the universe trotter. People say, globe trotter. This person is a globe trotter who goes on visiting so many countries and doing so much work internationally. Naradji is a universe trotter. He can go into any loka. So he is that Naradji, and one very important thing about Naradji is, Naradji is a Bhakti Acharya. We know the Narad Bhakti Sutra he has written, and also he has written a very beautiful text called Pancharatra. So, see this in the Shloka 3, you will find that Manye Mahabhagavatam Naradam Deva Darshanam Yena Prokta Kriya Yogaha Paricharya Vidhirharehe. How to worship Bhagwan? Pancharatra is a composition of Naradji, where the devotion to the Lord, how we can develop, how we can worship the Lord, all that is described. So he is a Bhakti Acharya, and Naradji extols the Lord, who is a presiding deity of all the yajnas. And while Bhagwan is being worshipped there in the yajna of the Prachetas. So he says, please tell me, O Maitreya Rishi, please tell us about the stories of the Lord which Naradji narrated at that time. So he not only praised Dhruva, but he also narrated Bhagwan's glories, because now you will see an avatar of Bhagwan happens in the Vamsha of Dhruva, Prithuraja. So that is the story that Naradji narrated there. So now Maitreya Rishi is going to reply to Vidurji this whole. So who are these Prachetas? He is going to explain that. Now one may say how. See, Dhruva went to the forest and he is doing his meditation. Meanwhile, what has happened is what is being narrated. So in his Vamsha, so many things have happened while Dhruva is on earth meditating. So don't get confused with the thing that Dhruva went away there, and then Prachetas are after that, and then while Naradji is in the sacrifice, the yajna of the Prachetas, then he is praising Dhruva who went already. So there's some confusion. No confusion. Dhruva went away. Now what happened when he went away, that is being described. So between the time he went away from the kingdom to the forest, these things have happened. And then after a long time, whatever he spent in Badrinath, Dhruvaji ascended to heaven. At that time, Naradji is glorifying him and glorifying Bhagwan, who has already manifested as Prithu and all that. So that we will see. So that's the in-between time which is being described here now. So it is said, so Maitreya Rishi starts. Dhruvasya chotkala putraha pitari prasthite vanam sarvabhauma shriyam naichat adhirajasanam pituhu. So when Dhruvaji retired to the forest, he gave the kingdom to Utkala. Now Utkala is the eldest son of Dhruva, and he had no desire for this kingdom. And the father, the throne and the kingdom and the wealth and all that, he had no desire for it. Look at his qualities. Sajan manopashantatma nissanga samadarshanaha dadarshaloke vitatam atmanam lokamatmani atmanam brahma nirvanam pratyastamita vigraham avabodhara saikatmyam anandam anusantatam. These are his qualities. Dhruvaji's child he is. And he has got these qualities. Of course, it must be his sadhana also in the past. And he is born to Dhruvaji, and now you see here, he is from the birth. You see, Janmani Upashantatma, very, very tranquil in his mind. Nissangaha, free from attachment. Samadarshana, has a vision of oneness and equality towards all. And Dadarsha Loke Vitatam, he sees the entire universe in him and the self in the entire universe. So, Sarvabhutastam Atmanam Sarvabhutani Chatmani, what the Gita says. Ikshate Yoga Yuktatma Sarvatra Samadarshanaha. One sees the entire universe as an appearance of the self, and the self alone manifesting in the universe, and the whole universe as a superimposition in the self. So that is what is his vision. So the highest vision. Basically is a person who is a yogi, realized person. Now, whatever impurities were there in the mind earlier, they all are burnt by the intense sadhana that he has done, meditation that he has done, and so he looks upon everything as Brahman. All dualities have disappeared, and that Brahman is one's real self. So he is reveling in that state of absolute bliss, consciousness, and he does not see anything as different from him. So there is nothing to be done to achieve, because the whole purpose of every action is to experience fulfillment. He has experienced. And from the state that he is experiencing, kingdom, affairs of the kingdom, wealth, etc., don't hold any significance for him. So what does he do? He leaves. He doesn't take up the kingdom, he leaves the kingdom. And he wanders around as though he is an ignorant madman. See the 10th shloka. Jadandha badhironmattam, Jadandha badhironmatta muka kritira tanmatihi lakshita pathibalanam prashantarchir ivanalaha. So he is like a inert person. Jada, andha is like a blind person. Badhira, deaf. Badhira, unmatta, intoxicated. Muka, mute, can't speak. Akrati, atanmatihi. He behaves like this. Meaning, of course, he can see with his eyes, ears, hear with his ears and speak, but meaning he is not interested in the world outside. Sensory perceptions and enjoyment, all that he is not interested. Intoxicated in that divine bliss. And he lives like a small child. Madman. What we see in the Bhajagovindam also, Ramate Balon Mattavadeva. This realized person revels in that supreme state and is like a child, very spontaneous. Unmatta, intoxicated in that state where a person who is intoxicated will not be in touch with this reality, will live in his own world. Here it is, in a positive way, this person revels in the bliss of the self, is not hankering after the worldly pleasure. So, Unmattavat. And people who are not knowledgeable, who are ignorant, they may consider him madman, they may consider him as an inert person, useless person, and they think of him as the fire which has stopped giving out, which has stopped emitting flames. But the fact is, he is a person who is realized the highest. So many people, even in his family, they thought that he is a useless person. Matvatam jadam unmattam kulavriddha samantrinaha. The elders of that family, the ministers, everybody thought he is not fit to be the king. Vatsaram bhupatim chakruhu yaviyamsam brahme sutam. So they made Vatsara, his younger brother and the son of Brahmi, Utkal's stepmother, as the king. Now one whole description is given of this dynasty now. That what all happened, who all were born. So through Vatsara and Swaravithi, there were 6 sons: Pushparna, Tigmaketu, Isha, Urja, Vasu and Jaya. If anybody wants to name their children, open the Bhagavatam, you will find so many names. You can name the son Pushparna, Tigmaketu. Each of them will have some nice meaning. Then Pushparna had 2 wives, Prabha You see the names how they have kept. Prabha is daylight and Dosha is night. The two wives. So Prataha, Madhyandina and Sayam, morning, afternoon and evening, are the sons born to Prabha. Then Pradosha, nightfall or the first part of night, Nishitha, midnight, and Vyushta, the last portion of the night, the closing portion of the night or the dawn. They are the three sons of Dosha. And then Vyushta got through Pushkarini a son called Sarvateja. The latter got through his wife Akuti a son, Chakshu by name, who was appointed as Manu. So Chakshusha Manvantara will come. So the sixth Manvantara is Chakshusha Manvantara after this person, after this son called Chakshu. And then his consort Nadvala bore 12 faultless sons named Puru, Kutsa, Trita, Dyumna, Satyavan, Rita, Vrata, Agnishtoma, Atiratra, Pradyumna, Shibi, and Ulmuka. Ulmuka got through his wife Pushkarini 6 excellent sons. In that, Anga is the first one. So Anga, Sumana, Khyati, Kratu, Angira, and Gaya. Now Anga's wife is Sunitha. Now this Vena Vena was born to Anga. Now Anga was very righteous king. And he ruled, you will see his story comes now. But this Vena who was born to him, absolutely adharmic person, and tortured his praja like anything, very arrogant, egoistic. And Angaraj, Anga was very sad that what kind of a son is this? And he got Vairagya, he left the family. Retired into the forest, took up meditation on the Lord. So in short, he says this, so Maitreya Rishi says that angered, and so Anga was fed up with the wickedness of this Vena, and he left the capital, he went to the woods. Now the sages, they made him the king, and they saw the cruelty he was performing, and then they cursed him, and this Vena died. When Vena died, they churned his right arm, and Bhagavan manifested as Prithu, who is avatar of Bhagavan Vishnu himself. So in short, Maitreya Rishi explained, he has to come to Prachetas yet, but Vidurji has suddenly a question because he went fast forward. Sometimes we tell children some story and we have some work to finish, and so we hurry up something. I say, no, wait, you missed these details. Now tell more about this. So Vidurji has stopped him, saying, wait. Now, how is it that Anga, who was such a noble person, got such a wicked son like Vena? And for that he went away to the forest. And what offended these sages that they cursed this Anga, and Anga almost died. Cursed this Vena, and Vena died. So he says, ideally speaking, Navadhyeya prajapalaha prajabhiraghavanapi yada saulokapalanam bibhartyoja swatejasa. 23rd verse. He says that a ruler of people, even though guilty, should not be treated with disrespect by the people, inasmuch as he wields his own glory, as much as he wields by his own glory the might of Indra and others. Meaning, see, the Raja is the Pratinidhi of Ishvara. And respecting that, even if that person is guilty, whatever danda has to be done is to be given, but the praja should not disrespect. So that position is important. The person may be bad, then you sack that person from that position and give whatever punishment. These people killed him only there. So they said, and they are rishis, they are well versed in the scriptural lore. So Vidurji is saying that I am little surprised that why did they do that? So he says, you please tell me all that this Vena did, because you are omniscient, you know past and future and everything. So you please tell in detail. Now he wants to know. So Maitreya Rishi said that now he describes that once Angaraj, Raja Anga, he did a Ashwamedha Yajna, and the Devatas did not appear. See, it is said generally that when a Yajna is done properly, Devatas themselves will come, take the Yajna offerings and bless the Yajman with the desired result that the Yajman wants. So that is the power of the Veda mantras also, and the purity of the samagri used, the chanters, the tapasya that the Yajman has to do. So then the Yajna happens properly, then Devatas will come. Now when he has sent this Ashwamedha, the Ashwa and this horse has gone across and then come back, nobody, captured the horse, there was no war which happened. So finally the horse has come back. Everybody accepts Anga as the Chakravarti, as an emperor. And this Ashwamedha Yajna is happening, but the Devatas didn't come. Now, those who were doing the Yajna, they said that all the offerings are pure, they are procured with great reverence, the Vedic mantras are appropriate mantras are chanted and they are most powerful. The power of the Vedic mantras will, ensure that the Devatas manifest. So this Veda mantras also are proper, Ahutis are also proper, properly acquired. And those who are chanting the Veda mantras, they also have observed the strict discipline. They are also established in this knowledge. And we have not shown any disrespect to the Devatas, because of which they should not come here. Now Anga felt that maybe there is something lacking in me only. And so with their permission, he broke his Maunvrat and he spoke. What did he say? The gods refuse to come even though invoked, nor do they accept the cups of soma juice in this sacrifice. Tell me, what offense have I committed? So the Yajman also has to be, living in austerity, following certain rules, having noble intentions, all that. So he says, where did I go wrong? Now the sages who are there, they tell him that in this life you have not committed anything wrong. Not the least sin stands committed by you in this life. Yet there is one sin perpetrated in a previous existence, on account of which you are issueless here. Though you have such rare virtues and good qualities in this life, some karma of the past, because of which you don't have a child. And so with that end in view, you must try and get a worthy son, and God will bless you. When you worship Lord Hari with this bhav that I want a son, then Bhagwan will bless you, and then do the yajna. Devatas will definitely accept your offerings. Why? Because if Bhagwan himself manifests and he blesses you with your desire, then Devatas will have no problem. That past karma also would have got eradicated because you will have got a son now with your present sadhana. So he says that Sri Hari bestows on his devotee whatever boons the devotee seeks. And then Devatas, of course, will take. So now, when the Brahmanas, they told this to King Anga, he offered the Purodasha and to Lord Vishnu, who resides even in the sacrificial animal as the spirit of sacrifice, in order to secure an offspring to the emperor. With that bhav, this is called Sakama Yajna, where one does the yajna for fulfillment of a particular desire. Now, he wanted to be an Chakravarti Samrat, and he doesn't have a son. And that son is now, he is praying for the son, and that son has to then carry forward the lineage. So he prays to Bhagwan. Now, when he prays, he offers the ahutis, etc. Bhagwan manifests. So when he manifests from the sacrificial fire, there rose a superhuman being adorned with a gold necklace, clad in spotless white, and bearing a cup of gold rice ready, boiled in milk with sugar. As the payasam, the porridge. So from Ashwamedha, now he is doing Putra Kameshti Yajna. See that. 32nd verse. Ishtaste Putra Kamasya Putram Dasyati Yajna Bhuk. तथा स्वभागधेयानि ग्रहिष्यन्ति दिवौकसः यद्यज्ञ पुरुषः साक्षात् अपत्याय हरिर्वृतः. So that Yajna Purusha came out. Tasman stan kaman harir dadyadyan yan kamayate janaha aradhito tathaivaisha yatha pumsam phalodayah. So now the king, with all the permission from the Brahmanas, etc., he receives this porridge and hands it over to the wife. He gets it in his hand, smells it, hands it over to the wife, and the wife takes the porridge. And in time, a male child is born to them. Now, this boy, you see, even as a child, the boy was ardently attached to his mother's father, that is Mrityu. Now, if you remember many chapters before in earlier Canto, we saw that when Brahmaji created the whole universe, from different parts of his body he created. In that, Adharma was created from the thigh. No, from the back, sorry. Adharma was created from the back. And Lord Mrityu is born from them, from Adharma. So it says Mrityu, who had sprung from a portion of Adharma, so he turned out to be impious. This Vena, the son of Anga and Sunitha, became impious because of his association with Adharma. Now, very interesting this whole thing is. Please see. Anga, King Anga, is a very righteous person. And he has done yajna, pleased the Lord, Yajna Purusha manifests, and through that blessing, this son is born. But that son has come with his past karma. And now he is attached to Mrityu, who is born from Adharma. Now this son has become adharmic, which means that there is some karma of his past, however noble that parent may be, however noble the process may be through which that child is born. Now the child is born with some karma. And now he is associating also in such ways where he has become impious. Now if somebody says, oh, but Lord of Mrityu is Dharmaraj himself, then how did he become impious? The point is to only say that the association may be however divine, but if somebody's karma is negative and that person has come like that, then that person also will continue to express those negative tendencies. We can't hold ourselves responsible for the child's karma. So many times parents hold themselves responsible. Where did I go wrong in my upbringing of the child? What mistake did I make? That introspection is fine so that we keep improving ourselves, but we don't have to beat ourselves up or feel guilty because the child has their own destiny. We can't help it. Whatever is that karma that child has come with now, who can help? That child has to go through that. So in all these sattvic factors also, this Vena who is born is turned out to be absolutely impious. Now you see what all he does. Here it is said, taking up his bow and playing the role of a hunter dwelling in the woods, the wicked fellow would kill innocent deer, and people would cry out whenever they see this Vena that, oh, he's a tyrant. And he would kill small children, strangle them, the children of his own age. He will not be happy playing with them. He will torture them. He will even strangle them to death. So all these things, very, very, what we call tragic. And also this way, Angaraj, he becomes so sad. So his son is so wicked. This Angaraj tried to correct him also in different ways. He tried, even tried to punish him, tried to advise him, all that he tried, but he was not able to tame him. So he felt very depressed. And think about it, that Dhundukari, how he tortured that Brahman, Atmadev Brahman. There also we saw that he was not destined to have a child, but then he went and he asked the blessing specifically, and then the child is born. And how that Dhundukari tortured Atmadev Brahman and his wife, and all of that we saw. So many things we saw in that Mahatmyam. Same way, here it is, he says that householders who are issueless have surely propitiated the deity in their previous birth, inasmuch as they are saved the agony caused by an undesirable son, which is indeed hard to bear. Being issueless is better. We may think it is some curse. We may think that, oh, I don't have a child. But sometimes it is better than having a child like this. See this 43rd shloka, he says, Prayena abhyarchito devo ye praja grihamedhinaha kadapatya dukkham yena vindati durbharam yata papi yasi kirtihi adharmascha mahandranam yato virodha sarvesham yata andhari nantakaha yata adhiranantakaha. So he says that what wise man would make much of that which, though bearing the name of a son, binds one's soul with the fetter of infatuation, is a source of infamy to the parents and involves them in great sin, which arouses a feeling of antagonism in all, causes infinite worry, and makes the home a hotbed of affliction. So many houses we see this happening or not. There we have to understand this, that each child comes with their own prarabdha karma. Beyond a point, we can do nothing. It is their life, their karma, they have to go through it. And some karma of ours that to exhaust with that child, that the child is born in this family to us. That parent has to also understand that some karma is getting exhausted now. Now, what does Angaraj do here now? He says, Kadapatyam varamanye sadapatyachu cham padat nirvidyeta grihan martyo yat klesha nivaha grihaha. So he says that I account a bad son as preferable to a worthy son. Now see that how he turns that whole situation in a positive way. He says a bad son is better than a worthy son. From what angle? This bad son is a source of so many sorrows And that can strengthen our attachment to the home if the son is good. Now this son who keeps giving sorrow has turned the home into hell. So what will happen? Man will get disgusted with it. Meaning a person will get disgusted with it, get vairagya saying, what is this? And will turn to Bhagwan. The sattva guna of this Anga, King Anga, helps him to turn towards Bhagwan rather than go into too many depressive thoughts and suicidal tendencies and worthlessness and all that. So he says, in a way, Bhagwan, I am very thankful to you. You gave me such a child that I get vairagya. Enough vairagya I will get. Otherwise, I would have been attached to my child and then to the grandchild, and then it doesn't end, it goes on. So he reflected in this way and he got vairagya and he left his home. His home is full of prosperity. In the middle of the night, he couldn't get sleep and he said, this is all very tragic. He left. You know, it is very important to understand some of these aspects, that vairagya can come only out of vivek. The lasting vairagya will come through vivek. Now that vivek has two aspects. One aspect is to understand the existence of the Supreme, that there is something called changeless. So when we do vivek, because before satsang, we don't even know that there are two, changing and changeless. We only think there's a changing realm everywhere. What God, which God, what changeless, nothing, no idea. Then we come to satsang. Then we understand, oh, there is a changeless awareness, there is a consciousness, God, truth, reality. So the clarity has to come about that. And then the feeling also must come about the unreal, the samsara, that this is an abode of sorrow, is dukkhalaya. Bhagavan says in the Gita, it is dukkhalayam ashashvatam. It's an abode of sorrow. As long as we think that there is some value in this world, there is some pleasure in this world, there is something to achieve in this world, so long we will be attached to it. The moment we see its painful nature and we understand it properly and we know about the changeless absolute truth, automatically vairagya will come. Both these are very important for vairagya. Only one is not enough. So if I have only understanding about the reality, but deep moha towards the samsara, then that is where the dichotomy is, that I know all this, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, but I can't give up my morning tea, Swamiji, that, that has to come. That tea is not Mithya. Everything else in Jagat is Mithya, but that tea, morning tea is not Mithya. Everyone else is Brahman, but my mother-in-law is not Brahman. Some moha is there, some raga and dvesha is there, then that knowledge we can't apply. So only having intellectual knowledge and then not working towards this vairagya, having deep attachments, then there is a disintegration. And not having the knowledge of the reality, getting fed up with certain things in the world, may be a temporary disenchantment with some aspect of the world or some people or some situation. But the deep moha that this is real continues. And this is the source of happiness, that continues. So one will try to find some escape route, some relief methods, try to go and do something for taking the mind away from the tragedy, or become bitter, destroy oneself, get into self-destructive habits. All that happens because satsang is not there, one has not studied properly. So that experience becomes either a means to destroy oneself, or temporarily one feels disenchanted and mistaking that to be vairagya, one leaves everything and then one lands up in frustration. Here, this Angaraj, he already is a dharmic person. He is studied, he has done satsang. And now when he got this child, now he reflected. You see how he thought that Bhagwan, it's an opportunity to turn to Bhagwan. He doesn't think, he doesn't think that this entire episode is, that he is undeserving, he is such a wicked person, he doesn't have any good qualifications to seek the Lord, none of that. In the middle of the night, he says, this is not worth living here anymore. Better to seek the Supreme. Because he has done what he can. See, he tried to correct his son, he tried to give all types of knowledge, punishment, everything. But that son is not changing now. What to do? Can't waste the time on him. So what he says, so he, in the middle of the night, he gets up and nobody is seeing him, unobserved by anyone. He departs, leaving the queen fast asleep. He just goes away. Now, these people, when they came to know next morning, and these ministers and everybody, they are full of grief that, the king has gone away, and they try to search him, but they don't find him. Now, when they can't find him, they return. They have sent all this, the soldiers and everyone to send to find, and now they can't find him. So they all returned, and they all told the sages that, we couldn't find the king anywhere. So now what to do? The king has gone. There is nobody on the throne. It is any time enemies can attack, destroy, take over the kingdom. Plus there are thieves, bandits, all of that. There will be absolute anarchy then. So this chapter 13 ends there. Now chapter 14, Maitreya Rishi continues. Now they saw that this kingdom needs protection, and a king is very important for that. So they call this mother, the queen, Sunitha, and in presence of that queen and all the ministers, etc., what do? They crown Vena as the king, thinking that if responsibilities come on his head, he may transform, he may become good. So many times it happens, people think if somebody is acting irresponsibly or doing whatever they feel like, then they say, iski shadi kara do, sab theek ho jayega. What logic is there in that? There are that person, if that person is open to change, then it can help, not that it will not help. But if that person only, there's a fault in that person and not wanting to change and wants to continue the old ways, then you are spoiling somebody else's life also. So some people think like that. Any problem is there, just get this person married. The solution is in making that person realize their flaw, their mistake, helping them to change if they want to change. Now, if they can't change, now can't help it. So these people thought that kingdom needs a king, and maybe this Vena Raja, he will change when we give him responsibilities. So they crowned him. Now, when they crowned him, though he was not approved by the ministers, because nobody liked him, they all know that he is such a wicked person. But the Brahmanas there, they crowned him because somebody is to be put there. And they were following this, because they are the people who did this yajna and then told him to do putra kameshti, and then yajna purusha was born, and so that the lineage continues. So they put him on the throne. Now when this Vena came on the throne, so many thieves, dacoits, all of them who used to earlier trouble people, even in some small ways, they all stopped because they are very scared. This fellow is such a wicked fellow that he will surpass all of us. If we do something wrong, we are finished. So in that sense, their wickedness came down. So the Praja had some relief. But this fellow is surpassing everybody. He starts torturing people. So arrogant and self-conceited as he was by nature, he was puffed up with pride now. And he has become the king. He has acquired more power, affluence of the Ashtadikpalas. With all that, he has become the king. And he did not like the Brahmanas, the Rishis, the people who are doing yajna, praising Bhagwan. So he mounted a chariot and he toured all over his kingdom, shaking up heaven and earth. He banned all religious performances. And what did he say? Na yashtavyam, na datavyam, na hotavyam, dvija kvachit. 6th shloka of 14th chapter. Iti nyavara yad dharmam bheri ghoshena sarvashaha. He said, you can't perform sacrifices, you can't do dan, you can't put oblations in the sacred fire in any situation. Oh Brahmanas, remember, you cannot, especially you cannot worship the Lord, and you should only worship me. So this conduct of Vena, when these Brahmanas they saw, and he saw that Praja also is getting troubled by him, they all got together in one of the yajnas they were doing, and they said, this Praja is now suffering from both sides. The thieves and all also, now looking at this person doing all wicked things, if Raja is doing like that, Praja also will do. Initially, they all became quiet because they were scared of him. Now they saw that he is not bothered about justice, righteousness, nothing. He himself is doing all this, adharma. They also started. So this Brahmanas, they are saying, they felt that, like a piece of wood, that's the analogy given here. A piece of wood has caught fire from both the sides. So the ants and the other insects which are there in that wood, they are trapped. Now they are burning, they are getting burnt. From both sides, fire is lit. So like that, Praja is sandwiched now between this King Vena and all the thieves and dacoits and all kinds of plunderers. They all also become active because they saw that the law and order and situation and security, everything is gone for a toss. Complete breakdown has happened. And anybody doing anything. So they said, now this has to be put to an end because we can't see this happening. Though it is not our duty to get into politics and do any of that, but we can't see the Praja suffering like this. So what did they do? They thought that to save the Praja, they put this King Vena, this Vena as the king. But their actions have brought more suffering on the Praja. So they said, oh, terrible calamity has befallen the people from both the sides, from the thieves and from the ruler. For fear of anarchy, this undeserving fellow was installed on the throne, but he himself is proving a source of terror. So how can the Praja be happy now? Just as nourishing a snake with milk is fraught with danger to the very man who nourishes it, Vena, who was born of Sunita and wicked by his very nature, seeks to destroy people themselves now that he has been appointed their ruler. So they say that let us try to bring him around through some persuasion. Otherwise, this sin will touch us, meaning we will get affected by this karma phala because we have put him on the throne. Now, they say that we will try and tell him, suggest to him ways to change. And if he doesn't change, then they say that we shall burn him with our spiritual fire because already he is burnt by the popular resentment against him, meaning Praja is not very happy with him. And so we have to do some solution. Either he has to transform, or he has to be destroyed. There's no other solution here. So now they go, the Brahmanas, they go to Vena, and they try to convince him genuinely. So they tell him that we will tell you that which will be for your good, which will prolong your life and your fortune, your strength, and your glory. So please listen to us. So they tell him, see the 15th shloka, Dharma acharita pumsam vangmanakaya buddhibhihi lokan vishokan vitarati athanantyamasanginam satema vinashedvira prajanam kshemalakshanaha yasmin vinashte nripatihi aishwaryad avarohati. So they say that the duty performed with the mind, speech, body and intellect bestows on men, after they depart, worlds which are free from sorrow, even the eternal state who are free from attachment. Meaning, if one lives in a dharmic way, one will be happy here and one will enjoy in the hereafter. And if somebody is free from attachment, that person will even get mukti. So this kingdom and this duty and dharma, etc., can become a means for your well-being here and hereafter. So don't abandon this duty. Your duty is to take care of the praja, make them happy, serve them. Don't abandon this duty. Why? Because if you abandon the duty, you fall. And, O king, who protects the people against wicked ministers, thieves, and so on, takes revenue from them as per the scriptural injunctions, that king enjoys happiness here as well as hereafter. So just follow that, and it's so simple. The Lord, who is the protector of all the living beings and the soul of the universe, is immensely pleased with the king who abides by his laws, and in whose dominion and capital the very same Lord is worshipped by the people through devotion to their duty and following the Varna Ashrama Dharma. So you set an example, and Bhagwan will be pleased with you, and then when you live in a dharmic way, the praja also will follow. And what is that which you cannot attain? When you live in this way, when Bhagwan himself is pleased, because everything in the universe offers tribute to the Supreme Lord, including Brahmaji. So if that Lord is happy with you when you follow dharma, then whatever you seek will be attained by you. Meaning, why are you doing these adharmic things? Only to show, only to get what you want, and only to show how powerful you are. You will get all that in a dharmic way also. In fact, you'll get more. So they try to tell him that, that you should win the affection of your praja, and this praja is the one who is worshipping that Supreme Lord, and these sacrifices, when they are doing, they invoke the grace of the Lord. You will also benefit from it, praja will also benefit from it. And that Lord who is the subject of the three Vedas, who takes the form of all the ahutis also, he is only the Yajna Purusha, he is the ahutis, he only is the Veda mantras which are chanted. So everything is that one supreme infinite consciousness. Now, when you worship that Lord, when the Brahmanas worship that Lord, then whatever is the desired boon, Bhagwan will bless you with it. So don't show disrespect to the devatas, don't show disrespect to gods, because he has banned all religious performances and all that. And now everybody has to glorify him only. So they say that everyone actually glorifies Bhagwan, and you also worship that Lord, and he will fulfill all your desires. Now Vena doesn't like this advice, and power has gone into his head. So he says, you are foolish indeed, mistaking as you do unrighteousness for righteousness. This is called moha. This is complete perversion. Where dharma appears adharma, adharma appears as dharma. So many people, they don't they do that? Where what is right appears as wrong and what is wrong appears as right. That is complete delusion. Whether it is in simple choices like non-vegetarian, alcohol, or even some ideologies. People do so much to destroy the idols and all that. Unfortunate. What is a means of liberation? That means only they think is bondage, and that we should destroy all this, and then that is true freedom. All immaturity. So they say here that he says here, te vrittidam patim hitva jaram patim upasate. That for ignoring the very Lord who maintains you, you wait upon a paramour. Oh, what a pity. See, think about it. He is saying that I maintain you all. I am the king. And instead of being loyal to me, you are courting somebody else. A paramour means that a person who is married must be devoted to the husband, but wife, husband, wife, whoever it is. But this person now is not devoted to the spouse. He's not loving the spouse. He is having some affair with somebody else. So he's saying, you people, instead of being loyal to me, because I'm maintaining you, you are worshipping that Lord, Vishnu. Just look at that. What arrogance is that? The fools who disregard God in the form of a king can never attain happiness either in this world or in the next. Meaning, I am God. Vena, he is saying king. No, I am God himself. And you are disregarding me. Whatever I do is right. They told him how to get happy here and hereafter. And he is telling them, by disregarding me, you will not find happiness here or hereafter. Who is that Yajna Purusha for whom you cherish such intense devotion as corrupt women to whom love for their husband is unknown, have for their paramour? Vishnu, Brahma, Shiva, Indra, Vayu, Yama, Ravi, Parjanya, Kubera, Soma, Kshiti, Agni, Varuna. These, as well as all the other gods who are capable of granting boons and pronouncing curses, to abide on the person of the monarch. Meaning, I am that embodiment of all these. There is no greater God than me. Why? Because the king represents all gods. Therefore, free from jealousy, you worship me. Tasman mam karma bhir vipraha yajadhvam gata matsaraha balim chamahyam harata mattonya kograbhuk puman. You offer all the offerings to me, and there is no great person who deserves your worship more than me. The height of arrogance. We may say, oh, this is a story of King Vena at that time. Even today, there are so many people who are like this, who will reject God, who will say, no God, which God, what God. And then if they want recognition for themselves, people should praise them, glorify them. Whatever they say should be rule. Everybody should follow their command unquestioningly. Nobody should dare to talk against them. And if anybody tries to raise a voice of dissent, then silence them. If they do anything wrong, you can't even question them. You can't grill them. Nothing you can do. Why? Because we are unquestionable. We are absolute. We are above everybody. We are supreme. All that kind of ego. We can find enough examples of that King Vena even today. Hiranyakashipu also did like that. King Vena also did like that. So many people are there like that. So many examples one will see like that. So when this King Vena completely disregarded the advice of the Brahmanas and he went on the offensive, and he started telling them to worship him. So his reason had got perverted. He has strayed from the path of dharma, and he did not listen to the Brahmanas, this Vena. The Brahmanas got very angry. Now they got angry because Not that their advice was not heard. Then there is no difference between them and King Vena. They got angry because if this person has this attitude, the Praja will continue to suffer. Because he has gone away from the path of Dharma, he is got completely arrogant and all that which is said. No, he has perverted knowledge and he doesn't want people to do their worship, etc. So they got very angry and see this, what they say here. Hanyatam papa prakritidarunaha jivan jagadasavashu kurute bhasmasadhruvam. So they say that let him be slain, let this wicked fellow, pitiless by nature, be killed. If he survives, he will surely reduce the whole world to ashes in no time. So that is their reason. It's not that he didn't listen to what we have to say, because if he survives, the whole world will get destroyed. So this immoral man does not deserve the exalted throne of a monarch, he who shamelessly reviles Lord Vishnu, the supreme Lord of sacrifices. Now think about it. People who are in the position of power have to be humble, have to have that attitude of surrender, devotion to the higher, because the king is only a pratinidhi of Ishvara. King is not Ishvara. Ishvara alone is the real king, but king is only a pratinidhi of Ishvara. This Vena thinks he is the king himself and he is the supreme. So people who are in the position of power, they must have that humility. Then only they can serve truly the Praja. And whom we put there in the place of power also must be important. That is one lesson to be learned from this. That who is in the place of power is somebody who has the clarity, who has humility, who has the vision of oneness, who is there to serve. Is that person in the position of power? Then that person will use that power well. When people say power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, it is applicable in those cases where the person has no devotion to the higher. Hanumanji had great power, but did he misuse the power? So it is not that power corrupts and absolute power will corrupt absolutely anybody. It will never corrupt a devotee. It will never corrupt somebody who is surrendered to the Lord, who is having selflessness. In Hanuman Chalisa it comes, no, Sab par Rama tapasvi Raja. Raja has to be tapasvi. If Raja is a bhogi, if Raja is a ahankari like this, then Praja will get destroyed. See, in this case, there was not democratic choice. In this case, the rishis, the brahmanas, they decided, okay, let us put, but they made a mistake. That is another thing to learn. Out of desperation, they put him there. They could have chosen somebody else who was a worthy successor. They went by birth. They didn't go by the qualities, the guna and karma. They went by janma. So now suffers. But when there's a democratic process, one has to be very careful. Who is chosen to power? What is their mindset? What do they think of the country or the state, whatever the election is about? And what is the vision and how it will be for the Praja? Because Praja is responsible in democracy. Then they can't complain. Then once a person is chosen, is chosen. So the point is this rishis, the brahmanas, they thought that this person is not fit for being on the throne. And today we choose people who have more ego, more arrogance so many times in places of power. And it becomes a criteria that a person should not have religion and God and all these things. Then that person will become, can be chosen to power. But here it is said very clearly, the devotion to the Lord, if it is there, then it will work. We saw, no, Dhruva himself, and also the Angaraj, so many of them, other kings also. Devotion to Bhagwan is what will keep the person in humility, because there is a Lord. Otherwise, one thinks I am unquestionable authority. What I do, everybody has to just follow. What I say, people should follow. I am the greatest. People should praise me, worship me, and then one will keep only flatterers all around oneself. Even a king can make mistakes. Anybody can make mistakes. In fact, the person who is in power must be more careful, because it's human judgment and human mind and human error. Anytime one can make a mistake. And the impact of that mistake, greater positions one is in, is much more many times. So that's why the earlier days, the Brahmanas were there, ministers were there to advise the king before the king takes a decision. So it's a collective work. It is not that whatever king says blindly everybody will follow. If that happens in any organization, in any country, in any family also, that whatever this person says, we will just blindly follow. That is the beginning of the downfall of that. It is not what is dharma. Because if that person has even little error of judgment, it's finished. And so many organizations we see, sometimes this is a mistake. Unquestioning, blind obedience and loyalty. One is not thinking clearly. One has just put entire faith. This person said it, we have to follow it. But is it right? Is it wrong? Is it in interest? What are the long-term consequences of it? Who is thinking that? Why? Because the loyalty becomes to that person, not to the cause that person represents. The king is, the position of the king is to serve the praja. So service of the praja, well-being of the praja is the goal. So the king, whatever the king says, is not the authority by itself. If the king is going on adharmic ways, then that is wrong. One can't say that now king is God, now whatever God says we have to do. King is only pratinidhi of God. But king also has to know, the ministers also have to know. If the ministers blindly obey the king, it is finished. The king is also gone, ministers gone, praja also gone. Everything will be destroyed. So here, the Brahmanas, they say, we made this blunder, we have to correct it, otherwise we will incur the sin for it. So they tried to convince him, but he didn't listen. Then they say this person deserves to be destroyed, because in the larger interest of the community, there is no other solution here. No, why can't they make somebody else the king? This fellow will not allow, and he will kill that person, he will kill the others also. So in this context, now there is no other solution. So here he says that to get rid of him, the sages, they gave vent to their fury. What did they do? They just chanted the Bij mantra Hum. See that. Itham vyavasita hantuhu itham vyavasita hantum richayo rudhaman yavaha nijagno hankritairvenam hatamachyuta nindaya. They just pronounced the word Hum, and this Vena died. Already by criticizing Bhagwan, he has died. Spiritual death has happened, moral death has happened, all that. Now physical death has also happened. Just they said Hum in that anger, and the power of their tapas and the power of their whatever sadhana, with that intent that let him be destroyed, that Hum mantra was chanted, and that king killed. So the sages, having left each for their own hermitage, the sorrowing Sunita preserved the body of her son by the means of spells and devices. Now again, the sages thought that they have killed him and they went. But what happened was, this mother, she knows black magic and all that. So she preserved this body. And these sages, they went away. They didn't think that this body will be preserved. They thought that people will dispose of the body, but this mother has preserved. So on one occasion, when they have taken bath in the Saraswati, they have come together for a satsang, they suddenly saw, these thieves and bandits and all these people, they are troubling the praja so much. And they said, now, because Vena was there, that time also they were doing, now Vena is not there. So even that little fear was there, that is also gone now. So they saw these evil portents appearing, which caused terror to the world. So when they saw this mischief wrought about by those that looted the property of people and were disposed to kill one another, now that Vena was dead, now they came to know that the kingdom also has become weak because of anarchy. Thieves and dacoits had gained strength. Though powerful enough to arrest that mischief, they could do that, but they didn't do that. Why? Because they have to find a permanent solution. Brahmana's dharma is not to, catch the thieves, punish them and all that. That is a Kshatriya dharma only. So what they have to do now? They have to find a solution. So they think like this. If a Brahmana who looks upon all with the same eye and is tranquil ignores the afflicted, the spiritual energy stored even by that Brahmana through the tapasya, etc., will run out like water from a broken jar. The line of the royal sage Anga should not get extinct. For in this Vamsha only great devotees of Lord like Vishnu have been born, which is why they did the Putra Kameshti, to continue that lineage. Now that Vena is killed, the lineage has stopped and now anarchy has increased much more. So they find out, this body is preserved now. So they go and churn, through their power, they churn the physical body, the thighs of this Vena. And from there, a dwarfish person, dark as a crow, exceptionally short limbs, short arms, and large jaws, flat nose, bloodshot eyes, and red hair is born. And he comes out, he bows down to the Brahmanas, and he says, the Brahmana said, you sit down. Now this child came to be known as Nishada. So the entire community of Nishadas is born, the source is this. Now he took upon himself the negative karmas of this Vena. Even while being born, his progeny, the Naishadas, partook of his nature and took up their abode on the mountains and in the woods. So the Naishadas are born in this way. Now they churn his arms, because Kshatriya has to be born to protect. So they churn his arms, and that is what leads to the avatar of Bhagavan Vishnu. So we will see that in the 15th chapter. So for now, we will stop here. Happy International Yoga Day to everyone. May we live yoga as a way of life, not just do it on one day, but to live it as a way of life and realize oneness with the Supreme. Any questions for today? Okay. So let's do the arti. There's some technical problem here.
मंगल आरती प्रिया प्रीतम की, मंगल प्रीति रीति धूम की, मंगल कांति हसनी दसनन की, मंगल मुरली बीना धुन की, मंगल आरती। मंगल बनिक त्रिभंगी हरि की, मंगल सेवा सब सहचर की, मंगल सिर चंद्रिका मुकुट की, मंगल छवि नयन में अटकी, मंगल आरती। पभी अंग अंग की, मंगल गौर श्याम रंग की, मंगल अति कटि पियरे पट की, मंगल चितमणि नागर नट की, मंगल आरती। मंगल शोभा कमल नयन की, मंगल माधुरी मृदुल पैन की, मंगल वृंदावन मद अटकी, मंगल क्रीडन जमुना तट की, मंगल आरती। मंगल चरण अरुण तरुवन की, मंगल करणी भगति हरिजन की, मंगल जुगल प्रिया भावन की, मंगल श्री राधा जीवन की, मंगल आरती प्रिया प्रीतम की, मंगल प्रीति रीति डोल की, मंगल आरती। मंगल आरती। राधावर कृष्णचंद्र भगवान की जय। ओम न तत्र सूर्यो भाति न चंद्र तारकम, नेमा विद्युतो भान्ति कुतोऽयम् अग्निः, तमेव भान्तमनुभाति सर्वं, तस्य भासा सर्वमिदं विभाति। श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की।
ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते, पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। Harihi Om.